It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, we're going to go straight to Erin Patterson's. So, I'm a little bit early with this stream because as we speak, Erin Patterson in this mushroom murder trial is giving evidence in her own defense. So, she started giving evidence after lunch. So I'm not going to apologies, no hellos, no thank yous. We'll do all that later. We're going to do everything back to front in this video because she is speaking as we speak, so we're getting the news coming in of what she's saying. And that's where I'm going to start with this video. So there was testimony given in the morning by the detective. And we'll do that at the end. So I'll say we're going to go backwards because I think it's important. Erin's testimony, I mean, we've been wondering, haven't we? Was she going to testify in her own defense? Will it backfire on her? To me, it suggests that the fact that Erin has been called is because there is no defense, or that this is it. So Mr. Colin Mandy, let's just have a look at him. He's taken a chance here in calling Erin to the stand. Now, it could go both ways, couldn't it? It could work. Here's Erin, of course. Just have a look at Erin. Mr. Mandy, I presume it's on his advice that Erin is testifying, I presume. And will it backfire? Or is this all they've got? So, are they hoping that Erin can convince the jury that despite the lies she's told, very serious lies, that this time she's telling the truth? Does she have that personality that she can win over the jury? This is the question. Anyway, so we're going straight over to the Guardian coverage of this. And we're going to go to when Mr. Mandy, just before lunch, said his client will testify. The defense will call Erin Patterson, he said. And of course, Erin is facing 3 charges of murder and 1 charge of attempted murder relating to that beef Wellington lunch that she served at her house in regional Victoria on the 29th of July 2023, and she has pled not guilty to all charges. So remember, she invited her estranged husband's relatives. She invited round to lunch. She served them up with a beef Wellington similar to this one. Out of the 4 people that were at the lunch, Ian Wilkinson is the only survivor. We heard that Erin had lied about having a dehydrator. In fact, she said she'd never had a dehydrator, but in fact she had. And she'd been practicing with it, and she'd been putting mushrooms in everything, according to her Facebook posts. But the mushrooms, the traces of the mushrooms that were found in this lunch that she served up to these 4 unfortunate people were these mushrooms, death cap mushrooms. So she's lied about a few things. Let's just remember that. So whether she expects the jury will believe her on the stand when she's lied about having a dehydrator, she lied about having cancer, she lied about never having been foraging. She's told quite a lot of little porcupines, hasn't she? That's why we've got the Pinocchio emoji for her. But she wants the jury to believe her now, it seems. So let's see. So when they came back after lunch, Erin was called to give evidence. I call Erin Patterson, Mandy says. And Erin, who is sitting in the witness box, is wearing a patterned long sleeve shirt and dark coloured pants. So first of all, So this is, of course, is Mr. Mandy asking her questions. It'll be a different matter when the prosecutor, because thing is, now that she's speaking in her own defence, she's leaving it open for the prosecution to cross-examine her, isn't she? So Mr. Mandy begins to examine his client. He says he will start by asking Erin about her life in July 2023. In July of 2023, how were your children? He asks. And she replies, my children had just recently settled into a new school. They had been there for a couple of weeks at the end of July. And she says they were coping a lot better than I expected and quickly made new friends. So she was asked about life before the mushroom lunch. Mr. Mandy asked about Patterson's son's issues at his previous school. And a reminder that Erin's children and their schools, they can't be named due to a suppression order. So don't forget, Erin's children are young children. I think 13 and 9, something like that, so they are minors. So Mr. Mandy asks about the care arrangements for Patterson's children. She says they both lived with her full time. Let me just make sure you are seeing this, yeah. They could see Simon whenever they wanted to, and practically what that meant was our daughter spent a big part of Saturday afternoon and evenings with Simon. She says her daughter and Simon sometimes did extra things, like going to the beach or a local pool, but our son was only seeing his dad at church or a youth group. Patterson says at the start of 2023, she was accepted into a Bachelor of Nursing and Midwifery at Federation University. Gosh, nursing. Oh my God. Anyway, she deferred it due to her daughter's health issues. Patterson says, what are her daughter's health issues? Oh, I just got this horrible sort of Beverly Alley, Lucy Letby vibe then when I saw that. Because don't forget, Erin is 50. Now, I'm not, it's you're never too old to start a new career, I suppose. It seems strange, doesn't it, to go into nursing at the age of 50 and midwifery? Just seems a strange choice. I'm glad she deferred, to be honest, because I get these strong sort of Munchausen's by proxy vibes off Erin. I just do. So that's probably not a bad thing that she deferred. So she says this was in control by mid-2023, and she was planning to commence the degree in early 2024. I mean, honestly, I've got to zip my mouth here a little bit because, she hasn't been found guilty, of course. But the thought of waking up in your hospital bed and there's Erin at the side of you, I don't know, it just feels a bit scary. So apparently she felt more distance in her relationship with the wider family. And she's asked about her Leongatha home. She says she wanted it to be a house where the children grew up. She says she wanted to grow old there. So let's just remember that Erin was left a lot of money by her grandmother. I think it was $2 million or something. And so Erin bought this house, and this is where they were living. This is where the mushroom lunch was served, in the Leongatha house. Yeah. So Mr. Mandy asked Erin about what was not going well in her life in 2023. And she said, I had felt for some months that my relationship with the wider Patterson family, and particularly Don and Gail, perhaps had a little bit more distance and space between us. We saw each other less. Partly it was a consequence of I no longer lived in the same town as Don and Gail. I'd come to have concerns. This is the fundamental thing for me, what she's just about to say now. Erin liked to be in control of everything. And when she started to feel that she was losing control, and what she says here, I'd come to have concerns that Simon was not wanting me to be involved so much in the family, too much in the family. Perhaps I wasn't being invited to so many things. So bear in mind that her and Simon, they had separated. Let's just have a look at Simon. They had separated. And, you know, to all intents and purposes, initially it was an amicable separation. This is Simon, her estranged husband. And of course, it's her relatives, his relatives that were victims. This is Don, his father, Gail, his mother, who died, Heather, his auntie, she died, and Ian Wilkinson was the only survivor. So it seemed like initially when Erin and Simon split up, they did have a good relationship. And in fact, it seemed like on many occasions that they may get back together. But then it all seemed to go a little bit strange, didn't it? She was annoyed that when he filled out his tax form, he listed himself as separated, which of course he was separated. But she got, you know, she took real umbrage at that, Erin. She wasn't happy with that. To me, it feels like that's when everything started to go wrong. But I think it was not because she was really bothered about him, but bothered that she was not asked first. She was not in control. I honestly think she just liked to be in control of everything. And when it turned out she wasn't, it was a bit of a, well, I'll show you moment. The only thing I'm not sure about with Erin is whether she meant to kill these people or just teach them a lesson. I don't know. So I'd come to concerns, yeah. So Mandy asked Patterson about her relationship with Simon in July 2023, and Patterson says it was functional. We didn't relate on friend things, banter like we used to. That changed at the start of the year. And he asked how Patterson felt about herself physically in July 2023. She says, I've been fighting a never-ending battle of low self-esteem for most of my adult life. And she says she was planning to have a gastric bypass at the time of the lunch. Now, that's very sad. You know, issues of self-esteem, most of us suffer with them, don't they? Don't we? There's not many people, I think, who don't really. So that is sad that she was battling with low self-esteem. You know, Erin is overweight at the end of the day, and a gastric bypass was something she was thinking about. I mean, there was a time there seemed to be sort of all the rage almost. Everyone was having gastric bypasses. But ironically, people I know that have had gastric bypasses, they just put the weight back on again afterwards. You know, it's very sad because it works initially, I think. But, you know, the best way, you know, listen, I'm not an expert. I could do with losing quite a bit of weight, but it's difficult. But I would never consider a gastric bypass, not unless, you know, medically I had to. Just those things, they're like sticking plasters, aren't they? But obviously, we all know what we should do to lose weight. Is eat less and exercise more. Basically, it is as simple as that, isn't it? But as far as the physical side, but there's so much more to it because there's mental issues. You know, people don't understand that food sometimes is just as much as an addiction as drugs. Or, you know, people are sort of, you know, people eat for many, many reasons, overeat for many, many reasons. Sometimes it's because of abuse when people were children. Eating is a way of comfort. It's comfort, you know, and some people might turn to drugs or alcohol or maybe even everything, but food is just another thing. So, you know, people are a bit, I think people don't consider that people who overeat or comfort eat. You know, it can be like an addiction. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with the issues as much. You know, it's not just as easy as, oh, eat less and exercise more. You know, that's like telling a drug addict, isn't it? Oh, just don't shoot yourself up with heroin. Oh, right, okay. It's just not as easy as that, is it? Anyway, so she was planning to have a gastric bypass at the time of the lunch. Now, the important thing about that statement for me is, don't forget at that lunch, Erin told these people that she'd invited she had cancer. She told them that she'd had a lymphoma tested, a biopsy. She'd said that she was waiting for an MRI scan. She'd been diagnosed with cancer. You know, so the problem I find with Erin now is, after knowing that the lies that she told, and they're big lies, you know, not little white lies, telling people you've got cancer and sitting there while they all pray for you is, you know, it's a massive lie. So my problem with Erin would be believing anything she says. You know, that's unfortunately the way it is. So then she was asked about her early relationship with Simon. And Mandy turns to ask her how she came to meet Simon. And she says that they met in 2004 when they both worked at the Monash City Council. She says she was employed by the RSPCA and based at the Monash City Council. And Patterson says the pair were friends from November 2004 to 2005, and that's when they started dating. She says she met Simon's parents, Don and Gail, in early 2005. She says at the time, Simon wanted to go camping every weekend. Patterson says that Simon typically went camping with friends outside of work and invited her along on a trip. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, camping, I can't imagine anything worse. I mean, they were a lot younger then, I presume, 2005. But yeah, if I started going out with someone and even when I was young, I've hated camping ever since I had a catastrophic experience camping with the school when I was about, I don't know, 13. So it's like PTSD every time I think of camping. So yeah, if I started going out with someone and they said, oh, should we go camping this weekend? Like, yeah, not even glamping. No, thank you. I don't mind roughing it in the day and that, but I have to sleep in a hotel bed or a nice comfy bed at the end of the day. I'm not sleeping outside. I'm not sleeping in a sleeping bag with a load of insects and on a hard floor. Just not doing it. So Simon typically went camping with friends, and then while on a camping trip, the group stayed at Don and Gail's house in Corumburra. And Patterson says when she first met Simon, she was a fundamental atheist. She says that on the trip in early 2005, she attended a church service at the Corumburra Baptist Church. So, of course, Simon's family is very religious, aren't they? Ian Wilkinson, the only survivor from the lunch, he was a pastor. Was Simon a pastor as well? Anyway, the whole family were religious. And from what Erin's saying here, she wasn't at the time anyway when she met Simon. So she says it was the first church service she had attended. I remember being really excited about it. I was really looking forward to it. Ian Wilkinson was delivering the sermon. Hang on, I've just remembered something. Put the comments up at the top. And she says that Ian Wilkinson was delivering the sermon. I had what can best be described as a spiritual experience. I'd been approaching religion as an intellectual exercise up until that point. Does it make sense? Is it rational? I had a religious experience there. And she says that in the first half of 2005, Her and Simon spent a lot of time going on camping groups with others. She says they became a lot closer during that time before they began dating in July 2005. And she says, we continued to do a lot of camping. So they were part of a Bible study group, she says. They were engaged in February 2007 and they married in June 2007, the court hears. Patterson says from 2006 to early 2007, she lived in a town near Korumburra, and Simon lived in Melbourne at the time. And Mr. Mandy asked her if she had a lot to do with Don and Gail at the time. And she says, I did. They would often invite me over for a meal, probably almost monthly. Erin's parents were in Russia on her wedding day, the court hears. Patterson and Simon were married at the Korumburra Anglican Church, she tells the court. And Mandy asks if there was a reason they didn't get married at the Korumburra Baptist Church. And she says she wanted Ian and Heather to be able to enjoy themselves and not have jobs to do on the day. Mandy asks where Patterson's parents were on her wedding day. In Russia, on a train, she says. Strange. Erin says that Simon's cousin David walked her down the aisle. The couple began a road trip across Australia after their wedding, the court hears, and they settled in Perth at the end of 2007 after visiting multiple countries in Africa. And Erin, who was 33 at the time, says she wanted to settle down and start a family. So, Erin's son was born in 2009, the court hears. She says the birth was very traumatic and an emergency cesarean was performed. And Erin appears to become emotional as she recalls the birth. She says her son was in the neonatal ICU ward during the hospital admission. And Erin says that when medical staff said her son could be discharged, they wanted her to remain in hospital for her recovery. I remember having a conversation with Simon about it, and I was really upset. And she says that Simon told her, you can do it, let's just leave. You can just do it, let's just leave. Erin then discharged herself against medical advice. So she's got a history of discharging herself against medical advice, hasn't she? She says that after Don and Gail visited the Young family in Perth a few weeks, she says after Don and Gail visited the Young family in Perth a few weeks after their son was born. She says Gail was gentle and patient with her and gave her advice about how to interpret her son's cries. So 2 minutes ago, she said that in April 2009, the couple set off on another road trip. And she says that Simon wanted to resume travelling. She says, we decided to put everything in a storage unit and do the top half of Australia. We followed the coast up north. We didn't have any time pressures. She says they met Simon's brother, Michael, and his partner, Tanya, in Broome before heading along the Gibb River Road. She says the couple arrived in Townsville in November 2009, and Colin Mandy asks how Patterson was feeling at this point, and she says it became a lot harder travelling with their young son, and she says I'd had a gutful. Erin then flew back to Perth and Simon flew back 5 to 7 days later, the court hears. And then Erin said the couple lived separately for 2 to 3 months. And she says the separation was over by the end of January the 10th. And she rented a little cottage for her and their son in Perth while Simon stayed in a caravan park. she says. So they've got a history of breakups, you know, by the sound of it. So that's how far they've got so far. Now I'm going to say hello to people now, because if you weren't watching right from the beginning, what I did was I got right into Erin's testimony. I didn't do the usual hellos and thank yous and things. So let's put the banner on and say thank you. So I'm sort of going a bit back to front here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being interested in this case. Special thank you, as always, to my members. I love you all so much. And a special thank you to people who have bought me Ko-fis, sent super stickers, PayPal me, sent me emails, left nice messages. Thank you so much. Okay, then, hi lurkers, those of you lurking at home. I know there's quite a few of you that are lurking, because when I first started this video, there was a few people watching, but not everyone was commenting. So I know there's some lurkers out there. Hi, thank you for watching. Hi to replay crew, because there'll be a lot of you that are in the UK, particularly. This will be too early for you, this video, so you'll be catching up on it later. So hi, and thanks for watching. So now I think Tracy was the first this morning. She was up bright and early. She's probably off to work. Hi Tracy, hi Admit, hi David. Those of you that are in the chat, thank you for being brave enough to come in. Now let me just see. Oh, there's another couple of updates. So we're working backwards a little bit. I haven't read out the morning's testimony. So the court started and the police were speaking first. Erin did not start giving her testimony till 3:30 p.m. In Australian time. So we're sort of going a bit backwards. So where have we got? So Erin says that in April of 2009, the couple set off on another road trip. She says Simon wanted to resume travelling. Oh no, I've read that already, haven't I? Sorry. So just 2 minutes ago, Erin said we just couldn't communicate well. So it sounds like, you know, there is a lot of affection between Erin and Simon, but they were incompatible in a lot of things by the sound of it. So Colin Mandy turns to the couple's separations between 2009 and 2015. He asks about tension in the relationship between Patterson and Simon. And she says, what we struggled with over the entire course of our relationship, we just couldn't communicate well when we disagreed about something. We could never communicate in a way that made each of us feel heard and understood. We would just feel hurt. But she says that the tension in the relationship did not extend to arrangements for their son. And she says they were adult problems. They're not problems for a child. So don't forget, she hasn't even got as far as the daughter yet. So they went on and had another child. So, see, although they had these separations, they got back together because they got back together to have another child, didn't they? And then separated again later. So that's basically Erin's testimony so far. So she's just been being guided by Mr. Mandy, hasn't she? She hasn't, she's not been cross-examined yet. She hasn't even finished giving her testimony. So this is the answer to the question that we've had for a while, isn't it? Would Erin testify? And wow, she is testifying. You know, let me know in comments what you think. Do you think this will backfire against Erin? Or do you think she's done the right thing to testify? I would imagine it's Mr. Mandy that has advised her to testify. I just, you know, the only defence she seems to have so far is, yes, I told all these lies, but I'm telling the truth now. You know, that's how it feels. Yeah, I lied about not having a dehydrator. I lied about having cancer. I lied about not going foraging for mushrooms. But I'm telling the truth now. How is that going to go down with the jury at the end of the day? So the court is adjourned now, and the trial will resume from 10:30 a.m. tomorrow, Australian time, of course. So let's go right back to the beginning of the day. As I say, I started, I got right into Erin's testimony. But before Erin spoke, the lead detective in the case was being cross-examined. This detective leading Senior Constable Stephen Eppinstall, and he was the officer in charge of investigating the fatal lunch. And the trial started this morning or last night, as far as Australia is concerned, started with him continuing to give evidence. So that's what we're going to look at. I'll just come back to the chat. Make sure you're all okay in the chat. Hi, Angel. Yeah, she's testified. She's done it. She's gone for it. To me, we will sort of sum it up by the end. But the most startling thing for me, or worrying thing for me, of her testimony was when she said she was just about to start a degree in nursing and midwifery. Do you know, she gives me real Bev Allitt vibes. Bev Allitt, Lucy Letby. She, thing is, you cannot imagine that anyone would ever do that, hurt someone deliberately, especially when they were babies, they were hurting. You cannot imagine, can you, that someone would hurt someone deliberately for attention? But they do. They do it all the time. This Munchausen's and Munchausen's by proxy, it's a real, I think it's more common than people think. It's for attention. It's saving the day. All those kind of things. Sometimes it goes wrong. And it's not only Bev Allitt and Lucy Letby, they're the women, but there's lots of nurses. Unfortunately, there are nurses out there. Look at Dr. Shipman. People who are in charge of people's lives. It's quite scary, isn't it? Because vulnerable people, which are old people and babies, of course, the most vulnerable people, they really are at the mercy of nurses, aren't they? And doctors. It's really quite scary. It's anyway. Yeah, she was about to do a degree in nursing and midwifery, but she had to cancel it. What was it? Because of her daughter's illness. They're all ill. I always think there's just, I know people do get ill, but when the whole family, it's like with Madeline Soto and Stefan Stearns, they were all on tablets, weren't they? They all got anxiety, all got, issues. And they were all walking around rattling the tablets they were taking. Even little Maddie, who was only 13 years old. I think that's always a bad sign. When people sort of rely on, I'm not talking about people with genuine illnesses, who need tablets to live, to survive. But people, taking tablets just for the sake of it. And also, of course, what we can't forget about Erin is she is, look at her medical history, the hypochondria, telling people she had cancer. She's all about attention. She would just be the worst person for me that I would want to wake up in hospital and see her beside my bed as a nurse. I think she'd be terrifying. Honestly, I just do, because she's a control freak as well. Hi, Daniel. So that was the most significant bit for me of the evidence she's given so far, that she was and as I say, she's 50 years old. Do you imagine at 50 deciding you were going to train as a nurse or a midwife? I had a student who was a midwife. She just retired at 50 because it is, believe it or not, really, really a physical. Takes a lot out of you, that job. It's not. It's not like sitting at an office and it's a really physically demanding and emotionally demanding job. and she couldn't wait to retire. As much as she loved her job and she'd done it, since she came out of medical school. She was a doctor, but she retired, and she was glad to retire so the thought of actually starting a career in midwifery or that kind of at that age, these are jobs that take a lot out of you. Exactly, not for the faint-hearted, is it, my angel Alfie? And certainly midwifery, dealing with babies and stuff. Oh my God, the thought. Yeah. And it just makes me think, she just gives me this vibe. But anyway, maybe it's being unfair. If you think I'm being unfair, let me know. Everybody has their view. But when I saw that she was, I just thought, what? Going back to, going to train to be a midwife and a nurse at 50 years old. Why? Yeah, she does remind me a lot of Bev Allitt, particularly. Just something about her. Control freak, just, likes to... anyway, she likes all the attention. We saw that at the lunch. She's telling those people that she's got cancer. She's telling her mother-in-law that she's going for a biopsy. These are not like little white lies. We all tell little white lies, don't we, here and there? But, the thought of telling someone you've got cancer or anything, any illness, imagine you might say to someone, well, I've got this pain and I hope it's not cancer, or I hope it's not this, or I hope it's not that. But you wouldn't actually tell somebody that you had it when you didn't. Everyone, we've all got our little hypochondria issues, Sometimes you get a headache and you think, oh, God, we've all got our little dramatic moments. But actually, so then you go to the doctor, don't you? You get it checked out. She went to the doctor, got it checked out, but there was nothing wrong with her. Yeah, the Pinocchio. Ay. So going back to this morning's evidence. So Colin Mandy took Eppinstall through photos taken by the police of Erin's house during a search on the 5th of August. So remember the other day, Colin Mandy, really what he was trying to do is discredit the police search, wasn't he? Say it wasn't thorough enough, etc. That's really what that's been about, isn't it? And maybe he's right. I don't know if it was thorough enough. But the photo shows plates in the dishwasher and on the kitchen bench. And Mr. Mandy says it shows 2 black dinner plates, 2 white plates, some red and white plates, and a colourful striped plate. So don't forget the plates. I'm obsessed with the plates. Where are the plates from that lunch that Ian Wilkinson, the survivor of that lunch, he was certain that the plates that the guests were served on were grey. That's what he testified to. And when he was cross-examined about it, he doubled down on it. He said those plates that he and the other 3 guests who are now dead were served on were grey plates with individual beef Wellingtons on them, and that Erin had a different colour plate, more of an orangey colour plate, smaller than their plates, and none of those plates have ever been recovered, as far as I know. So those grey plates and the orangey plate, they have not been recovered. So where are they? I'm fascinated with the plates, to be honest. I think the plates are key. And Ian, as I say, he insisted that these plates were grey. And not only him, actually, because the other 3 victims are, they did give some testimony because it took them a few days to die, didn't it? So they also had said about these grey plates. That's why I 100% believe Ian Wilkinson when he said those plates were grey. 100% believe him, because yeah, the others backed it up, and then unfortunately they died, so they can't give evidence now, but they did give testimony in the first couple of days before they got so ill they couldn't speak anymore. So yeah, so there's a fascination with the plates, because these grey plates and even the orangey plate that Erin supposedly ate off have not been found, have they? So Mr. Mandy then shows Eppinstall photos police took during another search of Erin's home in November 2023. And one photo shows white shells that were photographed by the police in August 2023. And Mr. Mandy says some items seen in the first search are no longer visible. And Eppinstall says the shelf has been rearranged. Well, to be fair, there's between August and November, you might well rearrange your shelves, might you? So what is Mr. Mandy trying to say here? I mean, to me, it's almost saying that Erin has messed around with the scene. I don't really know sometimes I don't know what Colin Mandy's getting at. I feel like he's trying to sort of convince the jury just by boring them shitless, talking about things that you think, what has that actually got to do with anything? Is he just talking for the sake of talking? Anyway, then he shows the jury a flowchart which shows 3 SIM cards police investigated. So remember, one of the phones has never been recovered. So Eppinstall previously told the court there were 3 phones that police believed Patterson used, 2 Samsungs and a Nokia. And he said one of the Samsungs, referred to as phone A, had never been recovered. But Mr. Mandy says the chart demonstrates one SIM card was used across several mobile phones from 2019. And Mandy says in early 2023, Patterson's son's SIM card went into a phone referred to as phone B. So then Mr. Mandy showed the court call records of a SIM card ending in the digit 783, and he said that between 12:01 a.m. and 1:45 on the 5th of August, these records indicate that this SIM card has lost its connection to the network, and Eppinstall agrees. And Mr. Mandy said the next time the SIM card connected to the network was on 1:44 a.m. on the 6th of August, 2023. Yes, sir, Eppinstall replies. And Mandy says it's an example of the limitations of what can be extracted from call records. Now, the thing is, there's always a problem with any evidence, isn't there? But I think the thing in Erin's case is it's not just the phone records, is it? It's not just the fact that she lied about having cancer, the fact about the plates, the fact about saying she didn't have a dehydrator and then dumping the dehydrator and the dehydrator having traces of death cap mushrooms, and saying she bought them in an Asian supermarket, but can't be proven that, it's everything put together that will undo Erin, I think. If you take each of these individual things, that's different. But if you take all of it together, anyway. Then they went on a break. Oh, no, I haven't read that out, have I? Hang on. Yeah, then they went on a break. Then they returned. Right, so then Mr. Mandy concluded the defence's cross-examination of Eppinstall, and Jane Warren, the prosecutor, re-examined him, and she took Eppinstall to Patterson's discharge at her own risk from a hospital admission in 2015. She then takes Eppinstall to a medical form of Patterson's from Leon Gotha Hospital, and the document says it was printed on the 31st of July 2023. And she notes that Erin's estranged husband is listed as her next of kin, and the address for Simon is listed as her property. And Warren asks if Simon lived at this address in 2023. No, ma'am, said Eppinstall. So Simon was still listed by Erin at that property. Erin, in my opinion, she was trying to control Simon, definitely. She didn't want him really herself, but she wanted to be in control of the whole situation. Then Warren asks Eppinstall about the target searches conducted by police when a warrant is executed. Eppinstall says that police aim to seize all electronic items. He says this can be anything that stores data, including tablet devices, phones, and USB sticks. Warren shows the courtroom a photo of a black item on the windowsill in Patterson's home. The phone was taken by police during the search of the Leon Gotha property. And she asks Eppinstall if it is the mobile phone that has been referred to as phone A, and Eppinstall says it is a matter for the jury. So this came up before, this black item on the windowsill. Unfortunately, we can't see the photos, to make our own mind up. But as he says, it's up to the jury to decide, what is correct or what isn't correct. The jury can see all the photos. They've seen the videos, all the things that we're just getting reported back to us in third hand. The jury are seeing first hand. So the jury are the ones that have to make the decisions, aren't they? And then it came to Colin Mandy announced that Erin was going to give evidence, and we're going to skip through that evidence again. I have been through it once, but I'll go through it again for the benefit of people that have come in later, because I did have to start earlier than perhaps normal, so some people will have missed the beginning. So just a summary. In fact, I'll do the summary because I've got to go shortly, because I've got classes. I've got some Spanish classes. Also, I've got to go shopping, because honestly, if I showed you a photo of my fridge, there is nothing in it except a lettuce. No dinero. So I've got to go and get some shopping in. So basically, we've heard from Erin, and the things that I think are important. Mr. Mandy has asked about her early relationship with Erin, with Simon. He's asked about her relationship with his in-laws. And I think what's key is what Erin says. I had felt for some months my relationship with the wider Patterson family, and particularly Don and Gail, had a little bit more distance and space between us. We saw each other less. Partly it was a consequence of I no longer lived in the same town as Don and Gail. I'd come to have concerns that Simon was not wanting me to be involved too much in the family. She's had her nose pushed right out of joint, this woman. Perhaps I wasn't being invited to so many things. This is from Erin's own mouth. And she says their relationship was functional. We didn't relate on friend things, banter like we used to. That changed at the start of the year. Then she talks about fighting this never-ending battle of low self-esteem, and she was planning to have a gastric bypass at the time of the lunch. But again, to me, just can't believe what Erin's saying. She's told so many, you do get to a point with people who tell lies that in the end, even when they're telling the truth, you don't believe them. This is the problem, isn't it? If you consistently tell lies, in the end, people won't believe you, will they? So just, that's how I feel with Erin. So I feel like even though she's now standing and giving her account of things, you feel like you can't really believe what she's saying. Yeah. You just, I just can't believe it. So is it even true she was planning to have a gastric bypass? Does it matter? What relevance has that got? A never-ending battle of low self-esteem. I think you could say that about most people. Whether she's trying to make people feel sorry for her, I don't know. Anyway, then she goes on. I'm not going to read all that out. She goes on to talk about how they met, etc., and that the fact that on her wedding day, her parents apparently were in Russia on a train, and it was Simon's cousin that had to give her away. So there seems to have been some issues with Erin's family. She had a traumatic birth with her son, apparently. Says that she couldn't communicate well. Her and Simon couldn't communicate well. So that's basically where we are at the moment. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think Erin has done the right thing by testifying? I personally don't, but because, don't forget the cross-examination when that starts. I'll bet I wonder how the prosecution are going to play it, because they don't want to attack Erin too much, because what they don't want is the jury feeling sorry for Erin. To me, Erin's a person who likes making people feel sorry for her. She lies about her health for attention. And that is proven. That's not that's not opinion. That is true. She lied about having cancer. She did it for attention. So Erin is used to, at the age of 50, she's used to making people feel sorry for her. That's probably how she functions. It's like, poor me, isn't it? Poor me. Low self-esteem. Oh, I've got to have a gastric band. It's difficult. And I understand how it feels to have low self-esteem. I don't think I do now, but I certainly did when I was young. You see, I've got to an age now where I couldn't give a shit what other people think of me. I literally can't. This is it. Like, it doesn't matter, does it, what people say? You go through so much in your life. At the end, honestly, you young people out there that are worried about your appearance or worried about what people think of you, you honestly do get to a point where you literally do not care. Do not care one bit. And you are what you are, and people either like you or they don't like you. They either think you're attractive or they don't think you're attractive. Literally don't care, because I've been through so much in my life. It's like you just come out of it and you just think, why would I even care what someone I don't even know thinks about me? Just don't. And the thing is, the other thing you find is you can't change what people think about you. Doesn't matter what you do. You could have a gastric band. Won't make people like you just because you're thinner, or if you have some plastic surgery or Botox or whatever. It won't make people like you anymore. Might make you feel better about yourself, possibly. But that's it. That's the only reason I would ever do anything like that. Not because I'm worried about how I look to other people. If I thought, it would make me feel better inside, or for medical reasons or whatever. But really, I literally do not care. And I think a lot of people at my age don't care. You really do get to that point. You can't imagine it when you're young. I remember when I was, in my teens or early 20s, you do worry about what people think of you, what you look like. You're constantly thinking of how you can fit in with people, and what you literally do get to a point where you literally do not give a shicer. And that's where I am, luckily. So I do care. I like to get up, I like to put my makeup on, I like to look nice. But, I'm not 25 anymore. I'm not like some supermodel. Like, I'd like to be taller. I'd like to have longer legs. I'd like to be thinner. I'd like to be a lot of things. But I'm not. So I've just got to accept who I am. So I do think you do get to that point. I do think you get to that point. So I've forgotten why I started saying this now. But yeah, but some people, I think, do like, you'll know, we all know people where you're, when you, oh, you're all right, like, and most people will go, oh yeah, I'm fine, or they might say, oh well, I've got a few things going on, but I won't bore you with them, or they'll, but then you've always got, there are some people you're frightened to ask them how they are, because and I'm not talking about serious things, because I will talk to anyone about their problems, and I feel for anyone who's got serious problems. But some people just complain for a living. Honest to God, they could literally, it could be a job. You just think, and I've had it with students when they can't make it. Like if a student can't make a class for whatever reason, normally they say, I'm not feeling very well today, or blah, blah, blah. Some go into the whole details of everything, like, too much information about their bowel movements or whatever. And you just think, I don't really need to know that. Like, I would never dream of telling anyone, not someone that I didn't know very well. I mean, you go and tell the doctor. If you've got a problem, you go and tell the doctor. People don't want to hear about my bowel movements, and I don't want to hear about theirs. But I think Erin is a different kind of person. I think Erin likes the attention. Some people do like the attention. Unfortunately, they do. So it's sad, really, because it's probably, I'm probably the other extreme, where I never go to the doctor or never tell anyone when I'm not feeling very well. But, there you go. We're all different. Oh, it'd be a boring world if we were all the same, wouldn't it? So, okay, so that's where we are. So Erin started giving her evidence. And it turns out she was just about, for this lunch, she was just about to start training to be a midwife and a nurse. God, that's the most scary thing that's come out of, as far as I'm concerned. People live with things day in, day. What I've found is people that really are going through stuff. They don't moan about it. They don't want to moan about it, because when they're talking to you or with company or whatever, they want to forget about the horrible things that maybe they're going through. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but sometimes the more you talk about something, you can get upset. It's good to get upset, because you have to let it out somewhere, don't you? You can't keep everything caged in. You have to talk about how you feel. Quite a lot of people send me emails and they just tell me all sorts of things. And then they say, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have told you all that, or I shouldn't lay all that on you. But I don't mind that, because, that's good. Sometimes, Pete, it's good to get it all out to somebody who's not involved in the situation, isn't it? But sometimes when you've got problems and things going on, you can't talk to your family or your friends because you don't want to upset them. Do you know they're too close to the situation? So, yeah, quite often people send me emails, and they're going through really bad stuff, and I would say to anyone, you want to rant about something, let it out, just send me an email and let me know if you can get it out. And sometimes you feel better after you've got it out, don't you? So, hi, sheep farming. Anyway, I'm just finishing now though, so there you go. I've got to go, I've got classes, I've got to go to the supermarket, put some food in the fridge, and hide some around the house. I'm even at the end of my secret stash now. I've got no food. I mean, literally nada, zilch. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And we'll find out I may be back later on today, but I'll definitely be back in the morning. So thank you. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And as always, don't forget to like, by the way. Don't forget to press like. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. I'll see you really soon in the next video. I need to put my banner up to go out, actually. Yeah.